Kalen DeBoer's story has always been rooted in the idea that football, at its very best, is a reflection of life itself. Messy, unpredictable, full of soaring highs and devastating lows, and shaped by the grit found in the space between discipline and dreams. His rise from small-town beginnings to the biggest stages in college football is one of those journeys that remind you why people fall in love with the sport in the first place. Born without the luxury of shortcuts, raised without the safety net that shields others from the hard edges of reality, he built everything through character, through patience, through toughness, and through a belief that leadership does not begin with a spotlight, but with a purpose. Long before he became a national name, long before stadiums roared his own name with the same intensity they once reserved only for the legends, DeBoer understood the deeper truth about the game, that the role of a coach is not simply to win, but to inspire men to believe in what they can become and to forge a culture strong enough to last long after the scoreboard is cleared and the stadium lights go dark. That understanding shaped every step he took, from his early coaching days at Sioux Falls where he built an NAIA dynasty brick by brick, to the transformative period at Fresno State, where he pulled a program out of uncertainty and elevated it with precision, intent, and vision. Those experiences didn't just prepare him for the national spotlight. They forged him into the kind of leader who could walk into any locker room in America and earn instant respect. When he arrived at Washington, the program was drifting. Morale was fragile, optimism sparse, and the identity that once defined Husky football felt muted beneath several years of turbulence. Yet DeBoer walked in with a steadiness that immediately reset the temperature. Players consistently said that he didn't just tell them what they could be, he showed them. His system reignited a dormant offense. His presence brought clarity. His relationships brought trust. And soon enough, Washington wasn't just winning games again. They were winning belief, unity, swagger, and national attention. Under his guidance, the team stormed back into the conversation of the elite, culminating in a run that reignited one of the great football fan bases in America. But the mark of Kalen DeBoer has never been found only in wins, though there were many, or in trophies, though he collected them with a calm, focused resolve. It was found in how his players talked about him. They spoke about a coach who could challenge them without demeaning them, a coach who could demand accountability but also surround it with empathy, a coach who never forgot that his job was not only to shape athletes, but to shape people. Many described the same thing. He listened, and because he listened, they followed. And because they followed, they grew. In an era where college football often feels like a revolving door of egos, trends, transfers, pressure, and transactional relationships, DeBoer's grounded humanity became a competitive advantage that no playbook could replicate. He didn't win people over with theatrics. He won them with sincerity. So when he arrived at Alabama, stepping into a role that carried the gravity of replacing the most successful college football coach of the modern era, the rest of the country watched with curiosity and skepticism. Some wondered if anyone could fill those shoes. Others questioned if Alabama's standard, unmatched, unforgiving, and ingrained into the DNA of its fan base, would crush even a coach as proven as DeBoer. But what many underestimated was the quiet resilience that had defined him his entire life. DeBoer didn't walk into Tuscaloosa trying to be Nick Saban. He didn't mimic, didn't imitate, didn't pretend. He walked in as himself, with the same blueprint that had elevated every program he touched. Build trust, elevate people, stay humble, stay hungry, and let the work speak louder than the expectations. He spoke openly about honoring the legacy he inherited, but he also spoke about forging a new path, one shaped not by imitation, but by evolution. His players noticed quickly how genuine he was. His staff noticed how prepared he was. Recruits noticed how dedicated he was. And fans noticed something refreshing. He never shied away from the magnitude of the moment. Instead, he embraced it. Alabama football was entering a new era, and Kalen DeBoer became the bridge between the past and the future, bringing a calming sense of continuity and a dynamic spark of innovation that would energize an already powerful program. One of the most compelling elements of DeBoer's coaching philosophy is that he believes schemes are only as valuable as the people executing them. He never fell in love with complexity for its own sake. He fell in love with clarity, clarity of vision, clarity of purpose, clarity of identity. His offenses were always built on adaptability, rooted in principles that allowed quarterbacks to thrive and playmakers to flourish, but they were equally grounded in structure and discipline. Beyond the X's and O's, however, his teams always played with an unmistakable unity. There was something cohesive in the way they moved, in the way they communicated, in the way they responded to adversity. That cohesion came from his leadership. Great coaches know football, but transformative coaches understand people. DeBoer has always been both. The transition to Alabama brought its own mountain of expectations, pressure from fans, comparisons to Saban, scrutiny from analysts, and the weight of maintaining a legacy that towers above the sport. But DeBoer approached it with the same quiet confidence that had carried him from small college sidelines to the SEC. He understood that success in Tuscaloosa wasn't just about game plans. It was about culture, accountability, and embracing the relentless demands of a program that expects greatness every single day. He spoke often about standards, about habits, about the daily commitment required to build something lasting. And slowly but surely, players began to echo his voice, adopting his tone, his purpose, his approach. He connected with quarterbacks with the same depth he connected with linemen. He valued walk-ons the same way he valued five-star recruits. He didn't treat anyone like they were replaceable or irrelevant. In his view, every player had a role, every player had value, and every player deserved to be coached with intentionality and respect. That's why players bought in. That's why parents trusted him. That's why recruits who had never met him before walked out of conversations feeling like they had just spoken to someone who genuinely cared about who they were and who they could become. As Alabama's new era under DeBoer continued to take shape, the national landscape of college football watched closely. Analysts noted his calm, his efficiency, his precision, and the way players consistently spoke about trust. Fans admired his humility, his work ethic, and the way he honored the tradition of their beloved program while still pushing it forward in subtle but meaningful ways. Opponents respected his preparation and feared his adaptability. And across the sport, coaches privately acknowledged that if anyone had the tools to succeed in a role as daunting as Alabama's head coach, it was the man who had already proven he could win anywhere, with anyone, at any level. Part of what makes DeBoer such a captivating figure is the way he balances modern innovation with old-school values. He's technologically sharp, but emotionally grounded. He's strategic, but never overcomplicates. He values toughness, but never confuses it with emotional suppression. He empowers players to love the game rather than fear mistakes. His programs thrive not because he demands perfection, but because he builds environments where growth is celebrated, interaction is authentic, and discipline is rooted in purpose rather than punishment. Players often describe him as a coach who never raises his voice unless he truly needs to. And when he does, they listen, because they know he's not speaking from ego, he's speaking from investment. Kalen DeBoer's story is still being written, and that is perhaps the most powerful part of his legacy. Unlike some coaches who reach their peak early or plateau once they enter the national spotlight, DeBoer continues to climb, continues to evolve, continues to seek new ways to strengthen the bonds within his program. His journey feels less like a straight line and more like a rising arc, one that started in humble obscurity and now stretches across the most iconic stadiums in the sport. And Alabama, with all its history, all its pride, all its legacy, has become the newest canvas on which he will paint the next chapter of his career. Fans watching this next era unfold can feel confident knowing that the program is in the hands of a man who doesn't just coach football. He lives it, breathes it, studies it, teaches it, and respects it. A man who understands that winning is the result, not the identity. A man who believes that championships aren't built in January. They're built in every rep, every meeting, every conversation, every moment of accountability that happens long before anyone fills a stadium or turns on a broadcast. A man who has never been defined by where he started, but rather by how he elevates everyone around him. And as Kalen DeBoer continues leading the Crimson Tide into a new age, one thing is certain: his influence will ripple far beyond the scoreboard. It will shape players for life. It will shape the standard of the program. It will shape the way fans remember this transition, this era, this moment in time when Alabama entrusted its future to a leader built not from hype, but from heart. That is why this tribute matters. because Kalen DeBoer isn't just a coach stepping into a legendary program. He's a builder, a teacher, a steady hand, and a visionary ready to turn belief into reality, just as he has done at every stop along his remarkable journey. Thank you all for listening, for supporting, for sharing this reflection on a coach whose impact reaches far beyond the field. If you enjoyed this tribute, make sure to stay connected, share with others who love the game, and keep celebrating the stories that make sports so powerful. Your support makes all of this possible, and I appreciate every single one of you for being here.